Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. And today we are talking about, yesterday we had International Women's Day and people are talking all about women's issues and the growth and the progress they had. San Diego County released a special website detailing what achievements they had done. And many other cities are speaking about it. And this is the first time in the history of USA there is a woman vice president, Kamala Harris. And so this is a great achievement for the society as a whole, especially for the Western world, especially for USA, which never had a women leadership at the top. And on popular demand, Sat means truth. And due to etymological reasons, and to make it rhyme with Sanskrit, I had to add a half T in Sanskrit. We call Sat, emphasis on Ta. And so combined with logos, which is a Latin word you all know, this means a science or a study. And so Sattology becomes the science of truth or the study of truth. And antonym is a true antonym of mythology, where myth is a Sanskrit root dhatu, which means a lie, a fake, or imagination. So mythology means a study of a lie, a study of fake, or study of imagination. The connotation wise, mythology, sometimes we will call it as a history which they cannot prove. But when we say Sattology, means the history we can prove. So we say Ramayana, Mahabharata are Sattology, and most of the Greek history and Roman history, many aspects of it is mythology, including the philosophy. So with that, we get started. We have a very, very special guest, a great friend and author. He has written a book, Gita Comes Alive. And I have also written two books, which is the Hindu Bible and the Gita. Both are there. And I would recommend you to buy his books, The Gita Comes Alive on Amazon or gitaComesAlive.com. And so without delay, let us welcome Sri Jeffrey Armstrong.
Pranams, everyone. Adi, good to see you again.
Good to see you again, as usual.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We thank all those great gurus we've learned so much from.
Yeah, it's
wonderful to see you spreading it around the whole world. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, it's beyond our imagination that historically we have seen Sita, Mother Sita in Ramayana, while brooming her house, lifts the dhanush of Shiva with her left hand and brooms it under it. That much strength she had in her left hand, and as a small girl, and which Janak Maharaj observes her and thinks that I'm going to get a suitable person for this lady, this girl, daughter of mine. And so therefore she's also called Virya Shulka. Means it will be only given to a person who proves his bravery or he's as strong or stronger than Mother Sita. Now this is happened in the Treta Yuga of the 24th Yuga cycle of Chatur Yuga, and in the period of Vavaswat Manu, means according to the timeless history, this is very recent as compared to that Vedic Kal. Now, when we see that, and today's Western view of women is starkly different, totally different. Women had the choice to make, and their fathers were far more respecting their choice based on the qualification they had. So before we start off, so what do you think of today's condition of women in the world? And we talk about other things.
Well, this is one of the most important topics that the world is ignoring right now and just being brought to their attention, because the Abrahamic traditions, especially Christianity and Islam, have unfortunately made some decisions, and they've affected the whole planet. And particularly when Christianity decided to colonize all the cultures and take what they had, something was put in motion that was completely in violation of the principle of the feminine, which is to maintain our relationship with Mother Earth, with Mata Bhumi. And so colonization is the exact opposite of the influence of the feminine in life, which is to harmonize human action with nature. That's what the female has always been in indigenous cultures throughout the world.
Very true. Like the indigenous cultures always glorified, and the women were given respect and the freedom to contribute as much as a man would do based on their capacities, and the capacities were also respected. And today's transgenders are competing with women. I mean, is this a respect for women, or it is what is happening? Like in the sport, if I have a transgender, somebody a born biological male changing the gender and competing against women, and that is, I think it's a degradation of womanhood in terms of, or disrespecting womanhood. What do you say on that, sir?
Well, to me, this is the most obvious is always right in front of us. So unless a tradition is talking about male and female divine on one hand and on the other, unless you have both present as your image of the divine, then you're obviously insane. You're crazy because both are here. Both are the beauty of life. Both make life beautiful and rich in what it is. And the correct interaction of the two is marvelous and beautiful and ecstatic and wonderful. So who would leave the female out is just someone who's gone completely mad and is only trying to do one thing. And that is to take more and more and more and more from the earth without giving anything back, because the feminine is the personification of the cycles of life. That's why she has a cycle. So she's the guru of cycles of life. So I made up a term for this. Anyone who takes more and more and more and more without giving back is a moron.
That's right.
No female would ever do that. They would say, that's enough. Leave some for someone else. Let's return that. Let's restore that. We're missing that. The crazy army, crazy military men have gone throughout the world with weapons. It was the guns and gunpowder that did it. Went everywhere and just were rude and raped and pillaged, and we're not even recovered from it yet. But the female's the only way out. We have to bring her back and let her lead us.
When Rani Lakshmi Bai, the British, when they were trying to attack Gwalior, she was carrying a small baby. And to defend the honor of her state, she tied that small baby on her back, picked up the sword because her husband was killed by deceit by the British. Yeah. And she put the baby on the back and she went out with the sword. The British officer who was opposing her, that he has never seen a sight of a woman coming with a sword, with weapons, to fight for the honor of her state. And she defeated him. But the British officers shot her in the back with the child on. And that's how she fell much later in the second or third battle she had. And these are the people who are telling Indians that you have to protect women. And so what is an irony right there? And the second instance is when Alexander, that's why I called Alexander the Mouse, when he was running away from India, first of all, he could not invade today's India. He invaded Pakistan. And when he was going back, he attacked the Panchanad state of India, which is called Panchanad. Today is called Punjab, which is in Pakistan today, Ravi. He attacked with 40,000 soldiers. And he got defeated by Porus, went back with 20,000 soldiers. 20,000 soldiers got killed. And while he was crossing Multan, which is Mulstan, there was a Narsinga deity over there, worshipped by Pandavas. When just on it's in Balochistan area, that area, or before that, northwest Pakistan. In that Mulstan, the women of the village, he had killed all the men while coming to India. The women of the village beat the remaining soldiers, 10,000, and only 500 soldiers went back with him alive. And he wanted to run as fast west as possible, that as he can. And in Babylon, he gave up his life. So therefore, call him Alexander the Mouse. Here again, women taught a lesson to Alexander the Mouse. I call him the Mouse because he fought with the women, killed all their husbands. So this is the story of Vedic Virangana, story of the brave women leaders of India and in the Vedic culture. How do you contrast this with the Western experience? Do you have some stories like that in the West where it is completely like this?
There's nothing. I think the most important thing for everyone to remember and remind everyone else of is that in India, in the Vedic culture, there is a saying that Durga has 9 faces. Shiva has 3. But Navaratri, which is honored twice a year during the planting season in spring and harvesting season in fall, we say Prathamam Shailaputri cha, Dvitiyam Brahmacharini, Tritiyam Chandraganteti, Kujmandeti Chaturtakam, Panchamam Skandamateti, Shashtam Katyayaniti cha, Saptamam Kalaratriti, Mahagauriti Shashtamam, Navamam Siddhidatri cha, Navadurga Prakirtita, Uktanye Taninamani, Brahmanaiva Mahatmanaha. The Vedic civilization adores, honors, and listens to the feminine all throughout the year. It's the only global culture that has taught this. And all of the so-called religions of the world have totally neglected the feminine divine. To me, as someone born inside of Christianity in the Western world, this was the absolute truth that the Vedic culture had that no one else was saying. This was what convinced me finally, is that the feminine was present. Where would we be without our mother, our grandmother, our Mother Earth? So
there are 7 mothers mentioned in Veda, and thank you for speaking that wonderful, wonderful prayer. Actually, that prayer was sung by Arjun right before the Mahabharata war. On the
asking permission to fight.
On the permissions of Krishna, Krishna asked him to worship Durga. Now that's the respect. The Krishna is Krishna's to Bhagwan Swayam ete cham sakalapam sa Krishna. Ved Vyas very proudly declares. There's no confusion in the Veda. Most of the Veda confusion comes from non-traditionalists. People who do not follow tradition, they are the ones who introduce additional meanings. But traditionalists usually don't do that. And they don't. Adi Sankaracharya is the one who commented Jagannath Ashtakam. He wrote, and before writing the Jagannath Ashtakam, he wrote Lalita Sahasranam. And beautiful prayers he created. And I just had a show with the 12th Princess of Travancore. Okay, she's the 12th living Princess of Travancore, Lakshmi Bai Nalapad. And it will be live shortly, or it must be live already. In that show, she actually speaks about, beautifully sings those prayers. And the Adi Sankaracharya from Jiljit to Kerala, from Afghanistan to Puri, he binds the whole India into one, Adi Sankaracharya. And then he composes the prayer in the honor of Jagannath in the towards end. And those prayers are still sung. Jagannath Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhavatume. These are the words of Jagannath of Adi Sankaracharya. Now again, Arjun emphasizing Durga's praying to Durga, which you recited very well just now, and Adi Sankaracharya glorifying Lalita Sahasranam through Lalita Sahasranam. Now, these are the great examples. One from Mahabharata period, and one from around 2000 years back when Adi Sankaracharya toured India. But the consistency has been maintained over the period. And that's why I went back to Treta Yuga. Ramayana, Mahabharata, Adi Sankaracharya. Everyone has maintained consistency in the glorification of women. But in the modern, if you look at the when the Europe was in diapers, philosophical diapers, that time India was going through a big renaissance. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in India, and there he composed beautiful Ashishtastakam, and his disciples were discovering Vrindavan and other places. So this consistency has been there. How does today the yes, please go ahead. You're saying something.
Well, Adi, I was just going to say, along with that, when we speak of this, it's easy for it to sound like we're just talking about the female form here within matter. And it sounds perhaps like we're being ingenuous because if it's not the ultimate reality all around us, maybe we're just flattering people. So it's really important to understand that the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhurabhuva Swa, Tat Savitur Varenyam, Savitri, and Surya
Correct.
are the two names of the sun. Surya is the masculine side of the sun. You wouldn't want to go there. It's hot. It's too intense. It's distant. It's not available. It doesn't give life. It's dangerous. But Savitri is the Shakti. So the word we need to use is not just male and female, men and women, but Shakti and Shaktiman.
Correct. Point.
The Shaktiman of the sun is Surya, the sun.
Right.
Don't mess with that. That'll roast you. But it's useless unless it becomes Savitri. Now it's the sunshine that gives us life.
Right.
So we know in the Vedic culture that the feminine of everything, the Shakti of everything, gives life.
That's right.
And that the masculine is dangerous and therefore needs to be trained. It's not the woman who needs to be trained. It's the man who needs to be trained to protect life with their power. We are the problem, if there's a problem, not the feminine. And this is so much the basis of the Vedas.
People now, great point. Shakti and Shaktiman you mentioned there. But I also wanted you to answer one more point. This is the consistency maintained on the importance of feminine divine aspect. But do you see any parallel on the Western side, on the theology on the Western side anyway?
Well, there is a movement inside of Christianity called bridal theology. Because anyone with half a brain sees the beauty of the ideal of the male and female love.
Correct.
When they see that and see it in its most perfect form, anything in its most perfect form should make us think of the divine because it has a source.
Correct.
So if you've ever felt love and admiration for your mother, for your grandmother, personally, I had all of those as wonderful figures in my life. And to me, when I went into school, the first thing I was amazed by was how beautiful the females were. And I thought they were angels of some kind that had come to earth. And if you're honest as a human being, when you feel both these sides, which one would you leave off?
Right. True.
Who would you get rid of? You wouldn't get rid of any. But who is the most miraculous? The feminine. There's no question about it.
You brought up some very good points, and also you brought the point of Shakti and Shaktiman. The one of the important reasons, one of the reasons which Arjun mentions that about Varna Sankara, and women have, or some supposedly feminists have a big problem, and I'm not saying in a negative way, but there are many feminists who complain about that aspect, that why women needs to be protected. Now they have a challenge over there. Why do men need to protect women? And I was that's how you actually, and looking at both the sides of it, it is a duty of a man. Otherwise, it's
Adi, let me tell you where it came from. Anyone living in the forest knows this. When a woman has her monthly cycle, which of course makes her associated with the moon, animals in the forest can smell her for a mile away. And if the man doesn't protect her with his life, bears, tigers, lions, all the carnivorous animals will come and try to kill her and eat her, because while she's in her menstrual cycle, her smell can be smelled all throughout the forest. And this is why she was sequestered and protected, not because it was considered unclean or dirty, but because she was the most precious being in the group. And the man would stand in front of the place where she was and fight with the animals to the death to keep them from harming her and the children. This is completely lost in our modern world of apartments and apartment buildings and superficiality and makeup and all the externals that make it look like some kind of vanity. But the very source of life was vitally protected by the man in every forest community. It was real protection.
By challenging men from doing this, the that you need protection, that's called anti-women, that if a man tries to protect, they're actually challenging the man's innate nature, because it is the man's innate nature is to protect. And when you ignore that aspect of his nature's creation, the qualities of the nature, you are actually also going against the nature, Prakriti, Mother Prakriti.
Well, and the female, what fool doesn't understand that when she's pregnant, she's vulnerable? That this is a very delicate procedure. Going 9 months with someone growing in your body, this is remarkable. So any man who's not trained to serve her night and day during that time has never understood it. I had a child. My wife and I, previous, Sandy and I are been together 24 years. My first wife, 20 years. But we had a child, and I got to protect her at every stage that baby was inside her and then in her arms. Her voluntary vulnerability was not a weakness. It was a tremendous strength and courage and bravery. And anyone who's done it right understands it.
That's right. The today's today I saw also a movement today on Facebook where men are pleading for protection from the law against women. And so when you separate that out, and believe me, I'm being politically correct here, I have to be politically correct here, but we have to also have to give a chance for a man to do his own duties. And I know there are some elements there, some men can be vicious and violent, but it's a specific case, not can be general, where they're fighting to get their custody of their own children.
Okay, so this idea is where we need the three gunas. This is very important for everyone, that there are three states of being for life. And this is when we go Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshvara. So the three are the creative stage, call that your right hand, the recycling stage, call that your left hand, and the balance point, and this isn't prayer, this is balance, call that your two hands holding everything in balance. So let's say this is male and female. It's not got anything to do with the true self. The true self has no gender. We're just wearing a body, but the body's a part of nature. And the only reason this is confusing is we've lost our relationship with nature.
Right.
We don't live in nature, so we just see the male and female body type, but we now see it distanced from all of its functions. And now we have crazy ideas about it instead of this reverence that would automatically be, this is the coming together of male and female. It's the balance of nature. It's not opposed to one another.
Correct. I mean, it's a balance at the end. And the another aspect is which is being challenged every day and in many places. And I have to do that. I have a question here in that on the education side, where women and men, they are equally respected in the professions, and there is a gender pay gap, big issue, gender pay gap. And there is a big issue on the education levels and other levels, and there's a question on why women should be taking care of child, not a why not a man, and all these issues are there. Where I'll just give a historical example from the Vedic perspective, that Kunti, Draupadi, Tara, all these ladies, and Shakuntala, they were all highly educated women, highly educated. In fact, Gandhari, and I will even go to the level of Ramayana, Shabri. Shabri was respected as a guru in the local area where she was living. And all the sages requested Sri Ram to go and visit her, to see her, to make her perfect in her sadhana. And that's why Bhagwan Ram visited her. But today it's a challenge that why women should be taking care of the children, why it is all considered negative. And somehow the man is thinking, either should I work or should I take care at home for the children?
RDG, there's something very important that everyone has forgotten. When I first had to go work inside of corporations, I called them corpsorations, that dead place I go each day. I didn't even know then what they really were, but I could feel it, I could smell it. So it was very important to understand that when colonization took place and the European civilizations went around the world with weapons and stole everything from all the peoples of the world in the name of Jesus. And that's what they did. The Pope issued a hall pass and said, you may go take everything from anyone who's not Christian and bring it back and make them Christian. So that colonization formed the first corporations. Corporations have no conscience. They're instruments of exploitation. If they have a conscience, it's only because they've adopted one. But by their charter, they're only answerable to the board of directors. So what we fail to understand is that now men and women are still working inside of paramilitary corporations that are destroying our planet and using their wealth to control our lives. And then we're quarreling with each other about who has the right to go do that. The bigger problem is that the women are not being the conscience of the corporation. Corporation has a CEO, a CFO, Chief Financial Officer. You know what they're missing? CCO, Chief Conscience Officer. And sadly, everyone, male or female, who goes to work in a conscienceless corporation loses their own dharma in that enterprise. But everyone's afraid to talk about this.
No, you said a very good point here about the chief conscience officer, because there is a CSR, corporate social responsibility, but there is a no corporate conscious responsibility. It's not there.
It's not there. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And so if women go there and don't exercise their original ancient voice of the guide to protecting the earth, then they're having that taken away from them. And what they're losing is their tremendous ability to protect the earth. And this, to me, is the thing that everyone's not thinking about. They're acting, if they're asking to become equal opportunity exploiters of the planet, no, your job is to protect it. Even inside the corporation, we need them inside the corporation to be the conscience.
Now there is a growing also case. Let me become a devil's advocate here. There is a growing case, and of also there is a reverse exploitation also, in a way, where increasingly, because it's all on bodily consciousness, where where instead of thinking that aham brahmasmi, I am a spirit soul, we are all thinking like I'm a man, I am a woman. And then even though bodily duties are different or bodily functions are different, but still there is a more and more women are coming forth. So if any man is saying that I'm going to protect, and the challenge that we don't need protection from you, and now the reverse is happening. There are many men also are appealing for protection now, that where they want to be protected from the women. That is also being asked right now. The question is there right now. So what does dharma say on that now?
Well, Dharma starts the conversation by saying, we're not men or women. We are the Atma. We're an immortal being. And that our gender is just our clothing. This is a sweater. This is not me. I put it on, I take it off. So we're confused about who we are first. The conversation can't end well when we start it forgetting that we're the Atma. And this is Western civilization. There is no concept of the Atma, because the Atma goes from life to life to life to life. It's an immortal being who cannot die. And we simply go back and forth. I have a term for this. I call it going drag from life to life. Because my last lifetime, I was a female, and I loved this man, and now I look like that man. We're just going back and forth from life to life, switching bodies according to what we fall in love with.
That's right.
But if we forget this, we go crazy. There is no
Right.
answer to this insane conversation about male and female if we don't see that we're the Atma.
Right. Totally true. I totally agree with you.
Crazy.
One last question, and I will also try to add to that answer. And is the are there feminine souls different than masculine souls? And the animal souls different than masculine or feminine souls? Okay. And Jeffrey G, first you start, and then I'll add to that, please.
Well, of course, this is the poison pill. Let me say it very simply. The poison pill for the Abrahamic religions, because all religions, all traditions have some truth in them. And to say not is to be ignorant. But they made a mistake, okay? They thought, we'll tell everyone they only have one lifetime, so they take us seriously. And we'll frighten them and say, you could only try this once and then you have to decide. And by doing that, they made everything fear-based. With all due respect, I'm so sorry you took that choice. They made everything fear-based. They made the Supreme Being an angry, masculine figure. They didn't want to talk about females. Eve was the problem, not the solution. And so all of these problems are because we do not see each other first and foremost as a divine, immortal, deathless being going through classes. So I call the universe the university. Many of you are in university. When I went, we had a saying, first I get my BS, then I get MS, that's more of the same. And then I get PhD, that's piled higher and deeper. It's a load of crap that's piled on top of you. It isn't dedicated to truth telling necessarily. And so the truth telling of this is, we are neither, we're not the clothing. And unless you hold that view, you'll become deluded, confused, and then you'll identify only with your body, and then you'll hate others because of it. And we're in the midst of that warfare. The same with color. Black cars aren't good, white cars are good, red cars, I don't know. It's insanity. Black sweater, oh, don't listen to him, he's got a black sweater on. It's craziness. How did this happen? I think it's because we went crazy and thought we only had one chance. And the religions picked it up and misused it. I'm so sorry, but that's what happened.
Yeah. So my take on that question will be, Jeffrey ji, and that soul has is maya dakshina prakriti, and it's the eternal part of God, and the energy aspect is always feminine. So influence, your speech, your talk, all
within
these are
matter.
feminine attributes. So if you look at even the body also, the the strength is a masculine aspect, and within the same body the power of speech, power of intelligence, dhriti, shakti, dhyan, these are all feminine aspects. By language also you can make it out. So the concept which Jeffrey said earlier, shaktiman and shakti, which is simultaneously exhibited by everybody. So it's a, when you say what is feminist, but the soul has no gender. Otherwise, if the soul has a gender, then the soul will be inanimate also. So, which is not possible. It's a living thing. And so, therefore, the gender concept is only in the body's case. But within the body also, certain things are feminine and certain things are masculine. Not in the English language, but if you look at Latin or Sanskrit, then the words are also different according to the gender. So, there are three aspects in the words also. Would like to add anything to that, Jeffrey ji?
Well, I would just like to say that human emotions have so been intertwined in this conversation, again, in the Abrahamic traditions, that their story, their first story, ruined the whole thing. Whereas in the Vedic traditions, the masculine and feminine are nature. They're not a prejudicial concept that humans impose to organize society. They're an attempt to be like nature. And so they're different if you're living out in nature. As I said earlier, living in a forest. When you live in a city, we lose touch with nature. Then gender becomes confusing. It wouldn't be confusing in nature. You know, Adi, my favorite story on this is when the Pandavas went into exile and lived with the Nishadas, if you remember the story.
Yes.
And Bhima had a fight with this very powerful Nishada warrior, and he won, but he didn't kill him, and they became friends, and they all went home with the Nishadas. And Draupadi was still lactating because she'd been breastfeeding her children with her husbands, which were left behind when they went in exile.
Correct.
And there was a mother who died because or made no milk, and the child was going to die if somebody couldn't breastfeed it. And Draupadi said, "Well, I'll do that." And they said, "But you don't understand. You have to eat our diet also to do that, or the child won't be able to survive." And I think it's so powerful when Draupadi does this. She's the queen. She's the ultimate female in the whole civilization.
Right.
And she's a warrior. Don't doubt it for a minute. She's everything a woman could possibly be. And she's so humble and so caring. And she doesn't see skin color at all. And she's even going to eat a diet she doesn't usually eat. Boy, just so wonderful story.
Very powerful. And and the last thing I'll say is that the gender, now it is coming on the passports also. Most of the American passports will be updated now. We will have a choice to put on the passports. When I came from India to US, and the first time where I heard these conversations on, are you a man or a woman, or you are a other gender, neutral gender, I was totally shocked, because maybe I was ignorant and I never encountered that ever in India and other places. Because in India, those things are not very important discussion in the society. You know, India as a society has never discriminated. Some of you are being told that India has a lot of discrimination, a lot of caste system, but that is not. Caste is a Portuguese word. It has nothing to do with India. It's a European caste system. But there is no such thing in India. The class system, the but I was shocked with those kind of discussions, and I I had to tell one of the persons that I said, in India we never thought like that. in terms of so much basis on the gender, which gender you are, what is your preference. Now, so this kind of discussion I only saw in the West. And what do you have to say on that? Because it was a surprise for me, but you are living in this culture, you know much more than me here.
You know, Adi, there's a saying in the Vedic knowledge that the woman is like fire and the man is like butter. There's a secret behind all of this, that for all of the man's muscular strength, which is one of their endowments, on the other hand, in the area of their genitals, they're very fragile and delicate, and they're constantly leaking energy. The woman has a period once a month. The man leaks energy all the time unless he learns to keep that energy within. One of the great secrets of the warrior culture of India was the men were trained not to lose their seminal energy all the time. And because of that, they became able to withstand the intensity of the female beauty and energy without losing control. Instead, they stayed balanced and her fire didn't melt them. Instead, they served in that relationship rather than being afraid of her. So I have to say this, the deep psychological root of those embodied as men is that they are afraid because the women are more powerful. Real power is not muscles. Real power is being Mother Nature. And the Vedic civilization did not have that fear. They had ceremonies all the time celebrating that femininity and masculinity so as to balance it and bring it back into balance.
Thank you so much. So our discussion today proves that the importance of all aspects are very important. The both feminine as well as masculine, the balance is what is needed in the society. If any one aspect doesn't function, the society cannot function, families cannot function. So all are equally important. And one of the things which I also would like to say to all the people who are there, all of you are very intelligent. So you have an option to write very insightful dharmic articles on sattology.org or sattology.com. Both are available to you. .org is publicly available. You can write over there on topics like this, the position of women in Vedic culture, on different aspects of Vedic culture, which you cannot publish in a book. Somewhere you can write a small article, you're very welcome. And we are encouraging many, many authors. You can go there and you can write over there at Sattology, sattology.org. And last, do buy the book by Jeffrey Armstrong on GitaComesAlive.com. It's available on Amazon as well as on the website jeffreyarmstrong.com. So thank you all for joining today's discussion. And if you'd like to buy Sattology books, it is on Sattology. Search on Amazon, you'll get all my 6 titles over there. Thank you all. Namaskar and have a nice day. And all the videos of Jeffrey are on a playlist. Jeffrey and my discussion on Gita is called the Gita, and you can see all of them together. Thank you. Namaskar.